from the beginning of 43 till the end of 45. I was in 3 years, and a year and a half, almost 2 years overseas. I was stationed in Saipan a year and a half. I spent a year and a half there before the war. By the time the war was over, it was the end of 45. That's when I got my discharge, at the end of 1945. I was, at that particular time, I was at a hockey game when we heard that the Japanese bombarded Pearl Harbor. They hit a lot of our ships and all that, and the Navy personnel were called to their ships, and all the Army personnel had to report to their base, and so on. And a few years later, or a year later, I was drafted into the Army, and I spent 3 years in the Army. I spent 3 years with the Army, attached to the Medical Corps, attached to the Air Force. And I was with the Army Air Force, attached with the B-29s, which eventually hit Japan with the atomic bomb from the Marianas that was in Saipan. I was stationed in Saipan. And the Marianas were 3 islands, Saipan, Tinian, and Guam. The ones that hit Japan originally with the atomic bomb flew from Tinian. They hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that's what ended the war. Otherwise, they probably would have been fighting. And the Japanese were very fanatic. They would never have given up. Years after the war was over, they were still hiding in caves because they were brainwashed that they shouldn't give up because they would be tortured, and it was against the emperor's orders to give up. Many of them committed suicide. They had a place where many of them jumped to commit suicide. It's called suicide cliff. I don't know how many feet, hundreds of feet high, and they would jump to their death rather than give up. Well, it was good. I gave first aid and blood pressure and so on and so forth. And then when the planes came back from bombing Japan, we would help the people who were wounded in the plane to, give them first aid, immediate attention. It was very humid, very hot. The islands where I was at was very, very hot, very hot. And in fact, many of us got all kinds of infections because of the conditions there. Even I, you had all kinds of skin problems because of the heat and so on. And we survived. It was unusually hot weather. Well, at the beginning I had mixed emotions because a lot of people died from that bomb. However, when you come down to it, it saved a lot of lives because otherwise a lot of more Americans and even Japanese would have died. This way, at least after the 2 bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they surrendered. Japan surrendered, and the war was over. In a way, it was good because it ended the war.